Hey pastry puffs, welcome back to Strudel Reviews. It's your girl Strudel, and today we are going to be doing another RWBY related video, and since y'all know I cannot edit for shit, and because I cannot edit for shit, I've decided to bring out Miss Heather Grayson, Miss Jade Hunter, and Miss Bella Parker to be my assistants for today's video, where we will be talking about my top 10 favorite characters in RWBY. Yes, I know, another top 10 video, and you guys are gonna be like, oh, fun. Sorry, still got a bit of a cold. Fair warning. There is going to be spoilers in this video, so if you have either not watched up to, like, if you have not watched anything from, like, you've not watched anything from either Volume 3 onward, or if you have not watched a single chapter of any of the volumes of RWBY, or you're just not necessarily a fan of, like, again, this is a spoiler alert, some kind of, like, dark thing happening, this video isn't really necessarily meant for you. This is meant for the fans of RWBY who have watched at least, I'm gonna say at least up to, like, Volume 5. At the very least. But although, like, ideally, if you've watched, like, up to Volume, like, if you've watched the entire series up into this point, this video is really more so dedicated for that kind of fan, as at some point yesterday, I'm assuming, at some point yesterday, Rooster Teeth wound up dropping the Volume 9 teaser, and then, like, a 4-minute and 25-second clip of, like, a sneak peek of Chapter 1 of Volume 9. So, and because I saw that stuff this morning, I felt like I would make a video, like, related to RWBY, just to have a little bit of a break from the monotony and just have, like, a little bit of a kiki. Alright, and starting off with number 10 on my list, I put Maria Calavera, and if y'all don't know who Maria Calavera is, she was a character that was introduced in the very first chapter of the 6th volume. She is a little old lady who is clearly inspired by the Grim Reaper. And she has, like, robotic eyes, because well, to be honest, she gets into her backstory, and, like, in the 3rd or 4th chapter of the volume, where she's telling the gang how she lost her eyes, and she was eventually caught up to with, I'm assuming, Salem's lackey at the time named Talk, who is obviously based off of the TikTok croc from Peter Pan, which, fun, nice, cool. So she gets into, like, a kerfluffle with Talk, and Talk winds up slashing out her eyeballs as to why she has the robotic eyes. She was a silver-eyed warrior, and Talk wound up slashing out her eyes. And after Talk's little, like, 60-second invincibility, her 60-second invincibility clock thing runs out. That's her semblance. Pretty much immediately after, as she's being ridiculously cocky to a Maria who literally just got her fucking eyeballs slashed out of her head. Literally. I'm sorry. I was laughing. I shouldn't have fucking laughed. Maria activates, like, her little, weapon thingy, which is little skulls that have, like, tiny pickaxe type things. She had one within her reach, and she grabs it to activate, like, to get a hold of the other one. Gets a hold of the other one. And then immediately pretty much fucking decapitates Talk right then and there. I was intrigued in the character because of her sassiness. And then that part, like, made me instantly fall in love with her, because even without eyes, she didn't take fucking bullshit from nobody. And then also, like, what solidified me liking her so much more was that fight in the fight in the Amity Arena with, her, Penny, Emerald, and Cinder. And she, like, says to Cinder, "Get off of her, you," and she was about to call Cinder a bitch. I fucking lived. Anyone who calls Cinder a bitch is a G in my book, so we put Maria at the number 10 spot. For the number 9 spot, I put Marrow from the Ace Operatives. Because, like, my boy's the dog faunus. He's such the goodest of good boys. He has, like, such a pure heart and wants to do what's right. And especially throughout Volume 8, when he noticed, like, started noticing what Ironwood was doing was wrong. Because, my poor boy had to see his former leader's corpse in the morgue, then had to watch General Ironwood completely murder Councilman Slate in the middle of the fucking hallway. And then at the end of Volume 8, had to watch my boy Vine completely sacrifice himself because of fucking Harriet's fucking mistake. I will not fucking forgive fucking Harriet for what she did to my boy Vine. Vine deserved so much fucking better. And also, like, the fact that Marrow was the only one who was really, like, stuck to his senses from his introduction in Volume 7 all the way up to his very last moment in Volume 8. Highly respect the dude for it. And then, my number 8 spot is probably gonna be extremely controversial to a lot of people. But hear me out. In the number 8 spot, I put Hazel. Even though, yes, I know Hazel was a villain. He just really never, like, aside from his very personal beef with Oz, like, aside from his very personal, very extremely understandable gripe with Ozpin, over the fact that he wanted to avenge his sister Gretchen's untimely death, because the lass had tragically lost her life in a training mission while she was at Beacon Academy. And Hazel had rightfully put some blame on him. And his only goal was he just wanted to kill Ozpin over and over and over. And, like, aside from that, you saw he wasn't really, like, a bad guy. He was actually genuinely caring for Mercury and Emerald. Like, literally made sure that they were dragged out of the danger before it was too late. Especially, like, back at the end of Volume 5, where they were battling at Haven Academy. At the very end, when Emerald realized Cinder didn't make it out of the vault, and she snapped, and she had, like, that really massive, like, illusion of fucking Salem, and she blacked out. Hazel literally had her unconscious body over his shoulder, and then, like, we get more development with him in specifically Volume 8. And then in Volume 8, Oscar tells both Hazel and Emerald the truth. And Hazel's goal is to get Oscar and Emerald out of the fucking tower. like, out of the fucking whale before shit goes down. And then it eventually went because Jean, Ren, and Yang break in to go try to find and rescue Oscar. And then Emerald winds up going with them, and then, like, Hazel comes to their rescue, and he winds up saying to Oscar, no more, like, he says to Oscar, like, as his final words, no more Gretchen's boy. And then gets into a kerfluffle with Salem, and then ultimately sets himself ablaze to burn her down with him. And I think that character moment, like, that moment for Hazel's character, even though it was, like, the end of his life, and that he sacrificed his life for Emerald and the kids to escape, really, like, he really deserved a spot on my top 10 for that, because, like, the dude was parent of the year, and wasn't even an actual fucking parent. Highly fucking respect the dude for it. And then number 7, I put Ilya Amatola. If I said her last name correctly. If I did not, feel free to rake me over the motherfucking coals. I put Ilya on this list specifically because when we met her character in Volume 4, I was very, very, like, intrigued in her character, and then when we got the Blake trailer for Volume 5, we learned more specifically about Ilya and her backstory. And we learned from Ilya's backstory that, like a couple of characters that are further down the list, and I'm sure y'all can put 2 and 2 together, she comes from Mantle. But her parents wound up getting her into a, like, Atlesian private school. Because Ilya can pass for, like, even though Ilya is a chameleon faunus, she can pass for human. And one day, she gets the news at school that her parents literally died in the infamous Schnee Dust in the infamous incident of the Schnee Dust Company, where many of the workers died in a died in an explosion in the mines. And we learn about it from Ilya, we learn about it from the Blake character trailer, even though it was an Ilya trailer in disguise. And then, Volume 7, I believe Volume 7, Chapter 3, they go into a bit more detail of how the explosion of the mine had happened. And then, since then, Ilya had, a grudge against, Atlesians and whatnot as a whole. Wound up joining the Black Fang under Adam's faction, where she eventually met Blake, became really good friends with Blake, and started essentially falling under Adam's, essentially falling for Adam's lies. Although, Adam is a completely different character, and I didn't even put him on this list, but I'm sure we'll talk about him at another time. But, Volume 5 is all about, Blake's little side story is more so about her trying to convince her friend Ilya to leave the White Fang before she makes a decision that she'll regret for the rest of her life. And then eventually they get into a scuffle. They eventually get into a scuffle at Blake's family home where, the White Fang breaks in and they try to kill Gira and Kali. They fail, mind you. And then Ilya, Blake, and Son have, a fight in a room that Blake sets ablaze, so Ilya can't hide in the shadows. And then eventually in the end, like, Ilya kind of wakes up, comes to her senses, and they forgive her because they knew, like, it wasn't really her and she was misguided. So she... Like, we haven't really seen her character since after the end of Volume 5. Except for, like, a snippet in Volume 8 where, like, the gang was successful in getting their message out to the rest of the world. But other than that, we hadn't really seen Ilya since. And then for number 6, I put Sun Wukong. Let's be honest, we all knew fucking Sun Wukong was gonna wind up on this list. Because, let's be real, when we all first met him at the end of Volume 1, we all fell in love with his character. And then as time went on, like, during Volume 2, and even, like, Volume 3, we started falling in love with this character even more. And then, like, especially in Volume 4, when even though, like, against his better judgment, had followed Blake all the way to Menagerie, just so she wouldn't be alone. And he even got injured by, Sun literally got injured by Ilya because of her little weapon, like, has electricity in it, and, like, he literally got stabbed by her electrical weapon, and it hurt him pretty bad. And then, like, Volume 5, like, his whole character was, like, helping Blake get a bunch of the Faunus to come help aid Haven Academy because, like, they were under attack. And then, like, he departs from us in Volume 6, Chapter 1, so he can go to Vacuo with the rest of Team Sun, but we do see him and Neptune very briefly again in Volume 8 when the team gets out their messages, but that was all we had really seen of him. And then for number 5, this is, like, one of 2 spots that I'm kind of cheating in. And you'll understand why I kind of cheated for the number 5 spot. Because I put Lai Ren and Nora Valkyrie. You know, Ren and Nora. They had been together since the tragic events of Kuroyuri back in, like, which was the backstory, Ren's backstory in Volume 4, Chapter 12. Where we learned, like, Ren lost his parents and a good chunk of his village to the Nakalave attack. His mother being instantly killed by a falling piece of board, and then Lai Ren just not making it out alive with the battle with the Nakalave. And then, like, that's how we learned, Ren met Nora when they were afraid, like, when they were little kids and they were afraid, and Ren gave Nora, like, a little wooden hammer, which caused Nora to, like, become the big, strong woman with the giant hammer to this day. And, like, Ren and Nora has had, like, quite a lot of development as the series went on, specifically Ren, in Volumes 7 and 8, Ren had a lot of development where he was more so, like, starting to shut down and, like, shutting everybody out, Nora included, and then they started giving Nora development in Volume 8, specifically when Nora, like, practically took her hammer and smashed, took some of the electricity from, like, the door to try to bust it open to go aid Penny in her battle with the Aesops. And after taking some of the electricity from the door and smashing it down on the box, Nora manages to overexert her body with, like, the use of electricity just to get the door open to get to Penny, and she almost fucking died. But now she has, like, really cool lightning She's got really cool, like, lightning bolt scars all over her body, which is, like, really fucking cool. And then in Volume 8, like, Ren and Nora wound up confessing their feelings for each other, more or less, and Nora tells him, like, as much as she's always loved him, but Nora needs to figure out Nora, so they kind of, like, even though they love each other, they're kind of, like, not together because Nora wants to figure herself out. So, yeah. Y'all know I love me some Ren and Nora. They've been through some pretty dark shit together. And then for number 4, I put Yang Xiaolong. Is this really a surprise? Because, like, I loved Yang's, like, naturally happy-go-lucky personality in the first 2 volumes and, like, the first half of Volume 3 up until, like, things started going wrong, like her fight with Mercury, where he made it look like she attacked him out of turn. Even though, in reality, we all know, like, Mercury came attacking at Yang first, and she just defended herself. And then the fall of Beacon happens, and she's trying to go find and rescue Blake. Found Blake getting stabbed in the abdomen by Adam, and then when she tries to go aid Blake, Adam cuts her fucking arm off. And so she spends, like, a majority of her screen time in Volume 4 dealing with her PTSD, and then she gets her comeback in Volume 5, where she winds up beating the shit out of Raven's bandits. She literally fucking took them all in like a 1-2 scuffle. Which, yes, Yang, you go girl. Like, beat their asses with her new robotic arm. Also the fact that Yang is very motherly and very caring. And was rightfully very upset with rightfully very upset with Blake, because Blake ran after the events of the Fall of Beacon. And Yang was like, what if I needed you and you ran out on me? So that's fine. Not really, but, like... And then Volume 8, Yang gets her own development as she, like, faces Salem head on, and she says, you took my mother Summer Rose from me. And then, like, Yang and RWBY are talking with the whole scene with the silver-eyed hound, and then, like, RWBY put 2 and 2 together, like, that's what happened to Summer, and then Yang has a complete and utter, like, mental breakdown. So that's fun. But, like, again, I love Yang, very happy-go-lucky hothead, who's been through a lot of trauma, and, like, the trauma isn't even fucking over with, because she fell off the fucking platform at the end of Volume 8. And then my number 3 spot goes to, very obviously, Weiss and Winter Schnee, because we are not going to be pitting the Schnee sisters against each other. Because they've both been through a lot of trauma, and, like, their dialogue between the two of them just always seems to be the best, in my opinion. Like, their whole dialogue between the two of them in Volume 3, when Winter is trying to teach Weiss how to summon, and then when they reunite in Volume 7, and you see, like, Winter was absolutely fucking terrified for her sister's safety, and they wind up hugging it out. And then when Winter breaks the news to Weiss that Ironwood had chosen Winter to be Freya's successor. But that winds up taking a detour. But also, quick mention, in Volume 5, Weiss got completely impaled by Cinder's fucking, Cinder's fucking sphere. And then in the end of Volume 8, Winter watches her sister Weiss fall off the platform as she's desperately trying to go save her. And then, like, shortly before that, she just had, like, a very heartfelt conversation with another character that is on this list, which is a very heartbreaking conversation, mind you, and how Winter became the current Winter Maiden. and gave us the most iconic line, "You will pay for everything you've done." Damn, she gave that such raw emotion to fucking Cinder, and, like, it was fucking deserved. But, like, Winter and Weiss been through a lot of shit. They are my favorite adorable sister duo of, like, fucking tsundere types, and just give them all the fucking happiness, please. I beg of you. Just give them, like, all the fucking happiness in the world, please. Stop putting them through so much bullshit. And then for my number 2 character, no surprise here, I put Penny Polendina. As, again, this was another case scenario like Sun Wukong, where I felt like I instantly fell in love with Penny's character. And the fact that she's, like, based off of Pinocchio is just, like, everything. And the fact she says, "Salutations!" Like, I love her. Like, her little shenanigans in Volume 2 with RWBY and the rest of the gang was so fun. And then in Volume 3, she got to fight in the Vital Tournament, and then she wound up getting torn to shreds by Pyrrha in Volume 3. Like, and that broke my heart. And then she eventually winds up coming back in Volume 7, Chapter 1, completely rebuilt by Pietro. kind of sorta continues, like, kind of, like, that level of shenanigans, but also has, like, the job to be the Guardian of Mantle. And then at the end of the volume, when she's trying to help she's trying to help Winter get Freya's powers, and, like, Cinder's trying to halt their plans, Penny winds up inheriting the Winter Maiden powers from Freya, and then, like, the premise of Volume 8 is all about Penny becoming the Winter Maiden, and then she has her own little, like, predicament where her body got infested with a virus from both Watts and Ironwood. Fucking shame on Ironwood. He should have known fucking better. But that's a whole separate video for another day, why I have such a gripe with Ironwood. And then it eventually leads to, like, Penny's second death, where she passes down the powers to the Winter Maiden powers to Winter, and she was brutally murdered by Jean the second time she died. And then before we get into number 1, I will say my honorable mentions. Jean Arc, we'll go into it another time. Blake Belladonna, another time. RWBY, we'll get into it another time. Team Coffee, again, we'll get into it another time. Pietro, again, another time. And Neo, we'll get into him another time, but those are just my honorable mentions. And my number 1 favorite character is obviously Pyrrha Nikos. I had fallen in love with her the moment I saw her I saw her character in the background, and spending volumes 1 through 3 with her, and, like, we see that she's strong and powerful and caring and kind. And, like, she's literally, like, the best fighter at Beacon. Volume 2 didn't really give her much development aside from the fact she wanted to ask Jean to be her date to the Beacon dance, and, like, that wound up happening. And Pyrrha's real development happens in Volume 3, where Ozpin drops the bomb on her that they had chosen her to be Amber's successor. And then as she's getting ready to get Amber's powers transferred to her body, Cinder winds up coming, eventually murdering Amber right then and there, getting all of Amber's powers, fighting Pyrrha at the top of Beacon Tower, because Pyrrha made the choice to, like, defend the tower, as there was no time to get Pyrrha was right. There was no time to get an adult or a fully trained huntsman to take on this bitch. So Pyrrha, who had the skills of a fucking professional huntsman while still in training, takes on this bitch. Unfortunately, gets shot in the heel with an arrow, and then ultimately winds up dying at the end, at the top of Beacon Tower, and her body gets turned to ash. Completely scarring RWBY for life. So yeah, it's my top 10 RWBY characters. As I went into depth. And my lord, this was a long video, so make sure y'all get snack, get drink, whatever. Sit back, relax. I hope y'all had a fun time, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Oh, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye!